On today's episode of Locked On Wild, 2 trades, an injury, and still no major additions.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, Alex Micheletti joins us to talk about Minnesota Wild news over the weekend, talk about Jonas Brodin's latest injury, Declan Chisholm getting traded, and we will get you primed up for the free agent frenzy going on tomorrow. And we'll talk about as well why just because there haven't been any additions doesn't necessarily mean, we'll talk it out. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, host of Seth on Sports, joined by Alex Micheletti here today. And Alex, we had the draft. If listeners are looking for a more in-depth breakdown of the prospects the Wild selected, that's coming later today. So be on the lookout for that second video for you here, a bonus episode on your Monday. We had plenty of news throughout the weekend. So as we are fortunate to have, just get another chance to break down yet another eventful weekend for the Minnesota Wild. And let's start with the trade, the second trade that the Minnesota Wild made this offseason. Declan Chisholm getting sent to the Washington Capitals. It was a pick swap, and also the Wilds acquired a player that is an unrestricted free agent, that being Chase Prisky. Unrestricted free agent. He was with the Hershey Bears the last two seasons, which with a team that has had no shortage of success in the AHL, so that's intriguing. But he's an impending unrestricted free agent, 29 years old, and Bill Guerin talked about it after the move was made. He said they just couldn't get the salaries to match up with what Chisholm was looking for, with what they were willing to pay. That seems to be a common theme for this Minnesota Wild team, by the way. But, this is, I think, something that fans wanted, because not bringing Chisholm back is going to open up an opportunity for a prospect to earn that playing time. Now, couple that with Jonas Brodin's injury, which we'll talk about more in segment 2. It means that not only are you probably getting David Jiricek on the NHL team this year, but now it looks like Carson Lambos is going to also get an opportunity. So let's just start with Chisholm. Like he did good kind of jumping up in the lineup over the last couple of seasons. Numbers when he was on the third pairing, not as great, but this was an interesting decision by the Wild to not at least bring him back for some depth. But if you're looking to see prospects get some time at the NHL level, this is exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's about time, right? Because there's been a couple of them that have just been, they've improved slightly, but it's time to, they were, high picks. You have Lambos right there. It was a first round pick. So, it's time to probably see what he can do at the next level. Iowa has been, just a total mess. So see if he can, play well at the NHL level, or most likely a seventh D, but at least practice with the NHL club, and maybe get in a game here and there, because like we'll talk about later in the episode, we have the unknown of how long Brodin, who knows. So we'll see what Lambos can do. And Jiricek, we've barely seen. I guess kind of good for him to see how he does at a regular basis with the NHL team. We'll see how he's doing after a major injury too. It sounds like he should be ready to go full go for training camp. So we'll see how he looks too. And they're going to need him to play well because they gave up a ton for him. So he really has to have a huge summer here and prove that he can be on the NHL team full time.
And he looked, albeit in limited fashion, when there were a ton of injuries, he looked capable. Like he didn't stand out. Yeah. He didn't stand out in any big ways, as at least as negatives go. Like he had the goal that he scored on the rocket shot. So he looks like he's capable of at least kind of learning on the fly. But the interesting thing that I take out of all this too is Bill Guerin saying that they may look for some back end defensive depth. And I'm like, who are you going to pull in to be able to, who are you going to be pulling in to try to kind of fill out the back end of that? Like, it's going to be somebody that's going to play minimally. And at that point, why not just opt to go younger?
Yeah. And Brodin, he's not like he's going to be out the entire year as far as we know. And, that even if you sign somebody, that person's probably going on waivers and, would hope to get claimed instead of going down to Iowa. That's for sure.
Unless you go and you bring Dakota Murmas back, he is an unrestricted free agent. Just bring him in.
Just continue
him go back to Iowa.
Continue to run it back.
I kid. But it will be interesting to see because you on the front end, you've obviously got Spurgeon, you got Middleton, you got Faber. So not having Chisholm to be kind of that super fill-in, it will be interesting to see what happens if somebody else gets hurt. Like, how does this defense look? And are you going to just have Bogosian be your super sub? Like, are you going to have him be the one that slots up in the lineup? That didn't really work out the best this past season. Like, I think because Chisholm was more of a fluid skater, I think that's why him going from third pair to second pair to top pairing, I think that's probably why that worked as well as it did, was because he's a good skater. He's a good puck handler. And usually if you can do both of those things, or at least one of those things, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. With this decor, it's like hide the women and children when a puck is coming through, because they, if it hits their body, they could be out months, this for whatever reason, bad puck luck of getting hurt, blocking shots, but hopefully they've gotten that out of the way over the past couple of seasons. But you worry about Brodin, you worry about Spurgeon, because Spurgeon has had lots of injuries. Middleton was banged up this past season, and so Bogosian has kind of been the only reliable and then Faber, he's a warrior. He plays through injuries, and Zeev is just getting in, and Jiricek, we don't know a whole lot at the NHL level, so that's an interesting group.
And as far as Prisky goes, he's been a career AHL guy. Like, he has played a total of 4 games at the NHL level. He had 12 goals with the Hershey Bears as a defenseman last year, which obviously, the more points, the better. But I would imagine he's more, if they do bring him in, it's going to be a 2-way deal. He's probably going to spend pretty much all the season at Iowa. And I don't know if he'd even be in line to get a call up if somebody else got, or if you had a rash of injuries. Like, you're still looking at probably Spacek or Masters after Lambos as the first couple guys that get called up.
Yeah, those young guys deserve a chance, after being in Iowa for quite a while. And, Prisky is what he is, right? And, he would be the kind of that veteran presence down there in Iowa that is sorely needed, just because Iowa is still pretty young, and they need that that veteran presence. And he's been in big games in the AHL, Calder Cup, and so yeah, you need some veterans down there. And
Yeah.
Out of all teams that has been at the bottom of the AHL standings, they're looking for leaders for sure.
They definitely need some leaders. So we'll see who Greg Cronin tabs as the leaders of his Iowa bunch. But defense behind the 8 ball already. The season has not even started. We got to have the Brodin talk after reacting to the Chisholm news. We'll move on to the Brodin talk because he's going to miss some time at the start of the season. And this raises some questions, to say the least. So we'll discuss Jonas Brodin's injury as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you are all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. My favorite part about FanDuel is when Major League Baseball is going on and you're watching the Twins. If you get a hunch during the game that Byron Buxton's going to hit a home run, you can go find the odds for an anytime home run for Buxton. And if you're in the 3rd inning, you can still hop in on that action. And if he homers sometime during the game, you're feeling pretty good. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week, especially with free agency going on. We'll be breaking down all the news as the week unfolds. Before we talk a little free agency and some new changes to the collective bargaining agreement that, as Michael Russo noted, I think benefit the Wild and Kirill Kaprizov. We'll talk about exactly what here in a second. But Alex, we got to talk about Jonas Brodin because it was mentioned to Michael Russo by Bill Guerin that Jonas Brodin is hurt. He had surgery to correct the issue. As it sits in June, it sounds as though like he is going to miss time at the beginning of the season. We don't know how much, so you can tell we're getting close to the season because we already have medical secrecy, the schadenfreude of the medical announcement in the NHL. We don't know. At this point, he's just day-to-day in June and expected to miss time at the beginning of the season. So this obviously is concerning because as good of a player as Jonas Brodin is, and let me not mince words here because Jonas Brodin is a fantastic defenseman and one of the big impact makers on the defensive side for the Minnesota Wild. But if you look at what Brodin has done as far as just even a games played note, he played 50 games this season, 62 the year before, 60 the year before that. 73 is the high water mark that he's played in a season since 2018-2019. And I know there were shortened seasons in there, but since the 2018-2019 season, he has played below 70 games 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, including 3 straight seasons, and he's going in the wrong direction. So at what point, now that the trade protections for Jonas Brodin are set to drop, at what point do you have to weigh? Is he worth having on the roster? Well, obviously the talent is there, but at some point the games played has to become a major issue.
Oh, big time, and especially if they want to, make it past the first round too. And he was probably banged up against Vegas, right?
100%.
If he re-aggravated it just working out, and he wasn't even on the ice, that's a major red flag. And if he was this banged up, why didn't he just get the surgery when it was bad? Because we knew he was playing through. He always tries to play through the injuries, and if this is from working out, imagine what he could do to it on the ice. If he were to get hit in the wrong spot, and of course we have no idea what it is either. So, but if he was working out and it made it that bad to have surgery, it's like, what are we doing here? And it's not like he's getting any younger too, right? You have, like we talked about earlier in this episode, I mean, there's some fragile guys on the back end there.
And this is where I think Lambos can fit in, because he brings a little more of that defensive acumen to the table. You've got Juracek, who is more of an offensive defenseman, but I think he showed, albeit in a small sample size, he's not abysmal. He's not abysmally bad defensively by any stretch. Like he's just more known as an offensive defenseman.
And if you want to win in the playoffs, you have to have a strong big back end, or you can't all have small guys back there. So Juracek brings that size for sure.
Yes, he does. And that's why you've got guys like Jake Middleton on this roster, as much as people roll their eyes at it.
And that's why Bogosian keeps playing in the NHL, is because of the physicality and his size.
Yeah, he's not out there for his pursuit efforts against the best of the best. He's out there because he can throw his body around. But if you start to kind of pair this off with Brodin out of the lineup, this is going to get, and again, people probably don't want to hear this, but this is going to give you a look at what this decor looks like post Jonas Brodin or Jared Spurgeon. Brodin, after this year's got 2 years left on his deal. He's not going to be around forever. He's 31. It is time to start thinking about the post Brodin / Spurgeon world. It's time to start having those conversations and looking at what is going to be happening beyond, which is why it's important that you give Carson Lambos, David Juracek, Zeev Boyum plenty of time to season and cook at the NHL level this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's reports out there that, Craig Button put out there that he thinks, Juracek is just going to be a third pair. Well, I think in the Wild mind, for the amount of assets that they gave up to get him, that they want him to be a top four. So yeah he's going to have to, to work his way into that, improve his skating over the summer and see what he can do. You look at Zeev, you probably think, where he was drafted too, that, he can be a top pair at some point and run the top power play. And, he's just got to get that playing time. They can't be afraid to play him either. You can't just play him and then not play him. I did not get that strategy at all. And it came back to bite them in against Vegas with Merrill, making mistakes out there.
What a shock. What a shock. I'm truly shocked that backfired. But, Faber is going to be, I don't know that I would say down year for Faber, but just not as dynamic of a year as he had in his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
probably trying to do too much, and it seemed like he was maybe playing through an injury too against Vegas, or slowing down just because the amount of minutes, just maybe took a toll on him too. He was playing more than
30 plus
than what was necessary, probably.
I don't it just doesn't seem like a good strategy to have a guy out there 30 plus minutes. This is where Zeev Boyum will help because you can take that power play time away from Faber, have him focus more on the penalty kill and just 5-on-5 on
minutes.
defense.
Right.
Yeah. So that'll be a big storyline throughout camp to see how these D pairings look without Brodin. But again, that gives you an opportunity to kind of look at the plan, the succession plan. For all those who watch the show Succession, like, you got to have a plan in place because oftentimes your plan A fails in catastrophic fashion, and then you have to have a plan B or a plan C. So getting a chance to get a look at these guys is not a bad opportunity.
No, and you can't just keep running it back. You have to do something different. And I give Guerin credit for moving on from Freddie Gaudreau. I mean, he was an A+ locker room guy, but it was time to get out from underneath that contract because it's not like it was just this was going to be the final year of it. There was more years after that, and he didn't really show much in that playoff series, and you need a more offensive threat, down the middle there. And he was barely shooting the puck, and they need more, because everybody else in the division looks like they're trying to wheel and deal and upgrade, and the Wild, they're just kind of stuck right now. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days.
2 shots on goal for Freddie Gaudreau in that series against Vegas in 6 games.
Not acceptable.
Yeah. So for Seattle, like, good luck.
Yeah, they're a weird team. We still don't know what their strategy is either. New GM, but it's like what was that? We still don't know. And all they do is fire coaches.
All they do is fire coaches and just repeatedly say that they are not buying out Philip Grubauer, which I think would probably be a good idea, but
but
who's to
they
say?
Want to run it back,
They very much do. We'll take a look at a little primer for free agency, and I wanted to dive into some of the new wrinkles in the collective bargaining agreement that has been agreed to by both the Players Association and the owners that I think will benefit the Minnesota Wild and Kirill Kaprizov. We'll talk about that to finish today's episode of Locked On Wilds after this. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Seth Toupal and Alex Micheletti with you here on a Monday edition of the show. And Alex, free agency starts tomorrow. Already some moves as Vegas continues to try to position themselves for Mitch Marner. Barry Trotz continues to, I don't really know. I don't think anybody really knows what they're doing. But if you want more breakdown as to what exactly, Locked On Predators is your go-to spot for all of Barry Trotz's moves. Before we take a look at free agency, let's talk about the collective bargaining agreement because there are some interesting wrinkles in this collective bargaining agreement as far as Kirill Kaprizov's contract extension goes. I love how Billy was like, if we don't get this done with Kaprizov on July 1st, don't panic. Like, it just had to poke the bear. The new collective bargaining agreement. So if Kirill Kaprizov signs his extension before June 30th of 2026, and I think we're all in agreement that it would behoove the Minnesota Wild to do it well before that. But if he does, he can go the maximum 8 years here in Minnesota. If he goes to the free agent market before July 1st, 2026, or is traded, and signed with another team, he can go 7. if he signs a new deal after June 30th, 2026, so on July 4th or later, the maximum that he can sign on the free agent market is 6. He could sign a 7-year deal with the Minnesota Wild on July 1st or after. He could sign a 6-year deal on the free agent market after that. So what that would mean is, let's say he signs here for 14 and a half. A new team on July 1st, 2026 would have to offer him substantially higher to get that same amount of money on that deal, which I think is just another way that this kind of nudges it in the Minnesota Wild's favor, that they don't have to offer as high of a term. And if Kirill Kaprizov has this line of thinking, he could go lower. He could go a little lower in the AAV and still get plenty over the course of an 8-year deal.
Yeah, and it's really interesting with these contracts too, is the players like to have the money up front in those signing bonuses. So you see it where it's like they have a $1 million base salary, but the rest comes in those bonuses. So yeah, it's the best. If he wants the most money right away is to sign with the Wild. And I get, I was talking to my dad about this. It seems like maybe the wait between Kaprizov or McDavid, who signs first, because the other will want to one up. They want to continue to set the bar of who's the highest paid in the league. So that's why it might be a little bit because the other wants to see what they get and ask for more.
And another on that same bonuses topic, new thing in the collective bargaining agreement is that as of July 1st, 2026, bonuses would be capped at 60%.
Yeah, so you get your bonuses while you can. Yeah. It's unfortunate for some of these guys that don't have deals until the new CBA, but I think in the long run, this is so much better for the league and to all the new rules, and especially trying to close the LTIR too for the playoffs, because we've seen so many teams take advantage of that. So yeah, we'll see, but I think it's all positive for everybody.
And I will continue to remain adamant that I'm not as worried about Kaprizov signing an extension as I am about something happening during the extension,
right,
to where it's like I can't do this here anymore.
In all respect to Marian Gaborik, but Kirill Kaprizov, he is the best player that this franchise has ever had, and you have to pay him. You can't. We've seen other big time players leave this, including Gaborik, and get nothing for them, or we release the player and they go on to win a title elsewhere. And with this franchise too. So they have to pay him, and I know he's had the injuries, but that guy, he works his tail off no matter what, and he just brings so much excitement to the fans and everybody in the league too, and everything he's said about Minnesota, he loves it here, and I just can't see him playing anywhere else.
Yeah, me either. 2 quick hitters to finish. As of right now, it sounds like the trade market for Marco Rossi is pretty dry as far as the return goes. There are teams that are interested, but nobody's willing to pay anything substantial off the roster.
Right.
So do you feel like it is most likely now that the Wild field a bunch of offer sheets from interested teams? Because Matthew Nyes was an offer sheet candidate. He has re-upped for, I think, 7.5 7.75 in that general range AAV, which again means that Rossi's he's getting north of 7. Like every one of these that comes in, he's getting north of 7. Do we think it's most likely now that an offer sheet is the route that is gone, and then the Wild have the opportunity to match, or they have the opportunity to say, we'll take the compensation?
Yeah, when the drama first started, I kept mentioning that to you, and it just seems like that's where we're headed, since both sides have, or at least Guerin that we know of has offered multiple, twice now deals, and now it seems like, if the offer sheets come, they can at least see what other teams think of him, and let them set a market, and then it's on Bill Guerin. Does he, he said he didn't want to trade Rossi for futures, but if they don't match an offer sheet, then you're getting futures for him. So yeah, it's the ball then gets into Guerin's court, and is he going to be like Edmonton and say, here you go, St. Louis, here's Broberg and Holloway, who made gigantic impacts on the St. Louis Blues and helped them get into the playoffs. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they get multiple offer sheets or one, and then it's also on Marco to sign that too, because then if he signs it, then it's on Guerin.
And an interesting note on the offer sheet too is, let's say somebody offers something that the Wild are willing to match. The Wild cannot trade that player for a year. So this feels to me, I was at a family reunion a couple of weeks ago, and we were playing in a little family tournament of best ball, and I hit my driver to right up in front of the green. My dad's shot was a little further behind. So he said, so which one do you want to take? I said, well, this is obviously this is the one that's closer. It's an easier chip. So we took the closer one. We ended up bogeying the hole because it was a much harder shot from in close than it was from a further distance away. So my point being, some foresight in this whole situation may have done some good. And just even getting to this point a year ago and doing something about it, as opposed to just continuing to kick the can down the road, you've put yourself in a dicey situation here. And you either end up getting, probably at minimum, a first and a third for Marco Rossi. If you're lucky, you get a first, a second, and a third. If somebody goes nuts, maybe you get multiple firsts. But it's either that, or you end up paying more for a guy than you would like to, which further hampers you cap-wise going forward. And it feels like it could have been, or you just end up paying Rossi what he deserves and you don't put him on.
You have one more day to do that. And it just, from what we've seen from Rossi's agent, they've just flat out rejected, both deals. And it seems like they're chomping at the bit to go talk to other teams. And it was hilarious to, hear that, Rossi's agent, at one point in Bill Guerin's career, when he went to arbitration, Rossi's agent was helping Bill Guerin, in those negotiations. So it's kind of, just ironic that now, that guy is Rossi's agent, and now they're battling it out. And like you mentioned earlier in the episode too, it seems to be a recurring theme that whatever the GM speak, it's not fitting, the contract's not fitting into the model, or whatever he keeps saying publicly. So yeah, it's interesting, but they have to figure this out. This is, it's causing so much. I'm sure in the locker room too. They're like, or just just the team, like what's going on with this because Marco seems to be really beloved in that locker room, but I get business is business. So yeah, they're if they really want to re-sign him before free agency, they're pushing it right to the end.
Yeah, it's the best way to have handled this would have been a trade deadline deal where you bring in somebody substantially higher than Marco Rossi. You trade Rossi to a team that is out of it and is looking to get a little younger, and you send some assets to a third team that helps facilitate it. But now the only way that happens is if you sign him to a deal before the offer sheets start coming in. And
because if you look at for Rossi's agent, just seeing who has money out there, I mean, if I'm his camp, I'm going to San Jose, I'm going to Anaheim, I'm going to Columbus. Yeah, even the Blackhawks. I mean, there are teams out there with gigantic amounts of money that if he's looking for that Matt Boldy money, hey, they can clearly afford him, especially San Jose. And San Jose is they're a team in a rebuilding stage, and Marco's young enough that he could really help them out. But you never know with Mike Grier.
No, you certainly don't.
They bought out Vlasic they didn't even need to buy him out because they have so much money in cap space, but they just bought him out anyways. So yeah, that was an interesting move.
Teams that can offer a first, a second, and a third for an offer sheet include the Ducks, the Bruins, the Flames, Chicago, Detroit, the Kings, the Canadiens, the Predators, the Devils, the Flyers, the Penguins, and the Mammoth. Those are the teams that could do a first and first, second, third. Between 4.6 and 7 million, which is a first and a third, it's the Ducks, the Bruins, the Sabres, the Flames, the Blackhawks, the Blue Jackets, the Red Wings, the Kings, the Wild, the Canadiens, the Predators, the Devils, the Islanders and Rangers, the Flyers, Penguins, Blues, Mammoth, and the Jets. So,
yeah, look, the Ducks in Utah. You brought those teams up, and clearly there's the connection with Utah's head coach coached Marco and Canadian Junior, and they are a young exciting team. They could use some help down the middle too, and or if you move Marco to the wing too. The Ducks too are in that transition mode. They just got rid of John Gibson, so they keep opening up more and more cap space as well.
Mammoth have a first, 3 seconds, and 2/3 in the 2026 draft.
So many picks.
Keep that in mind.
In a better draft, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on everything. I would imagine the offer sheet stuff will percolate quickly. So we'll be ready to go if any news does break here over the course of the early part of the week. We'll have a free agency primer if the Wild are going to spend any money. Who are potential options? What do we need? We'll run through the details with you coming up tomorrow. And of course, if there are any free agent signings, we'll break them down for you, unless it's returning players who we hope don't return because they didn't really offer anything. But that's going to do it for today's episode. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day.